Testing, testing. All right. Welcome, everybody. Here we are, back in the first photo Friday chat of the year 2021. How does that feel, everyone? Huh? We made it through 2020, only to arrive at 2021.
Yeah, and it's telling 2020 here, hold my beer.
Yeah. Yep. Hold my beer. Chris is here. Sophie is here. Sophie, how are you doing over there?
I'm okay, Don. Thank you.
You still
Good.
on lockdown down there?
Sorry?
Are you still on lockdown?
Oh yeah, curfew at well, it's not lockdown, but it's curfew at 6 p.m. and that is early. Like
Yep.
that's very early. 8 p.m. was like you still had time to do shopping and stuff. Like 6 p.m. is like shit. You know.
What's the
Yeah.
deal? What's the deal with 6 p.m.? It just seems draconian to me.
It's well because apparently the cases it's just flaring up, and there's the new version from the what's it called, the British mutation. Apparently there's like the virus has had a mutation in the UK, and
Okay.
it's spreading like wildfire. It's like it spreads like I don't know how many percent more than the regular one.
70% more contagious than the
Here you
original.
go. So, and apparently it's going crazy. And so I think they're all just freaking out too. Plus, we're the slowest country with the vaccinations. It's a national joke, because you get the numbers from the country. So you get like Germany, 500,000, UK, and France, you get Patrick.
Well, sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. Well,
we haven't got any experience with the efficiency of the vaccine. So it's like the vaccine, you get it once and then you need to get it 21 days later. So until that's happened, we actually don't know if it's really going to make a difference or not.
well, let's hope
I hope.
they come up with something. Oh, Sid is here. Hey, Sid, you're here. How are you, sir? I don't know how Sid. I cannot hear you.
Hello, hello.
There you are.
There I am.
Sid, I'm going to make you, let's see, where did you go? More. I'm allowing you to record this.
Okay.
If you'll go up and record it, I don't know if it's my machine or it's my internet connection or it's Zoom. We'll know today. But I did
You're recording.
my 3 last webinars, and they said they were recording, and I got a corrupted file. So.
Oh no. All right, I'm gonna hit record right now. Boom.
All right. All right. Well, glad you guys are here. Small group today, but small groups are fun. What did you think about my topic, Sid?
I think all three of them sound good.
All right. Okay.
What was the topic? I missed that.
I'm going to pull them up for you here in just a quick second here. Topic number 1, keeping focus when it gets really hard, because it's for a lot of people, it's getting really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Getting really hard. The fascination with the supposed 10 to 14 days to slow the curve, the fascination's getting quickly gone. And we may want to be thinking some other things that's really hard. Number 2 was new creative projects, short and long term. And we always talk about the long term programs, but we've never seemed to jump into something like you got something planned for like this week or this weekend or a little short series of things. And number 3, what's hot and what's not. As the landscape keeps changing, what's hot and what's not. So which one do you guys vote on?
Go in order.
Yeah, let's go in order.
All right. How do you keep focused when it gets really hard? Really hard. And I'm not talking focusing the camera, because they do a pretty good job of that. What I do when it gets really hard is go to manual, but that's with my new eyes. With my old eyes, I just just press the autofocus and hope for the best. But with my new eyes, I can go to manual.
Lists. I always am jotting down lists and little
know-
bullet points next to them so that I can try to get things. I have a thing on my wall here where I've tried to list out, like, I don't know how many I have there. I've got about 50 topics that I want to do as blog posts, and then I have little empty boxes next to them. And then
Oh, cool.
I've tried to write dates down next to it. So like every Friday I try to have something. So it's sitting on the wall. I haven't done anything in a month. But that's like one thing, so that even if I feel I have downtime, I can just kind of look at my wall and it's like, oh no, you should be writing all these things and just starting to schedule stuff in there.
Yeah.
So I have to do lists, otherwise I just completely lose concentration. And
Lists
Yeah.
are great. That reminds me of the daily practice that James Altucher talks about, making a list of 10 ideas every day. Every day, right? He uses waiter pads, so they're really small, so you can't get too wordy.
Yep.
The whole goal is not to sit there and write treatises, but just a few words, But 10 ideas every day. I've been doing it since the first of the year. And as I've said before, you can get to number 6 pretty quick. But boy, I'll tell you what, 6 through 8 and 8 through 10 will kick your butt. It's like it's like we got 4 or 5 ideas right now. We could just nail them out, and then it gets harder. But it's a great exercise. I'm having a blast doing it. So yeah, lists are great.
yeah. If anybody is thinking of, like with the new year starting to do lists, my friend Dave Say has a whole series of really incredible productivity, time management, task management forums. They're all free. And I'll post a link to his download page. And there's there's, like he's got something called the Emergent Task Planner. He's got a concrete goals tracker. He has like a things to do today kind of thing. He's got a really kind of cool thing, which is, it's called a task order up. So it's kind of like when you go to a diner and they put those little slips up into the thing. He sort of did a miniature version of something like that, where it's like, I have three things that I'd like to do. And then I have more entries below that, but 3 is okay. Like, we don't want to tax ourselves. Like, we'll start with 3. If we can get to those other things, that's kind of cool. But he's like super organizational guy. So I always like to try to plug his stuff because he's just so organized and everything is just so beautifully laid out, and he's got a really good design eye.
There's a link there to David's stuff. I've been interestingly enough, I didn't know it said knew David, but I've been using David's stuff for well over a decade. Has to be closer to 15 years, I think. Yeah, because I can remember the studio when I was in, when I found his Emergent Task Planner.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've known Dave. Dave and I, up until recently, we had been doing a podcast, and I think we got about 100 of them done. And it was supposed to be, 2 people, self-employed people trying to live their life in the creative arts. And so if you want to dig into those, there's about 100 of them, and it covers about 10 years worth of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. Dave and we're real close. We're good buds.
Well, I love his stuff. Love it. I've liked it since the day I saw it. Made all my projects and when I left the big ad agency, I had a smaller group of people, and I made everybody use that stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And that they're free. David doesn't charge you for any of the.
Yeah, you can download them. They're free.
Yep.
For a while, he had he was, because he's very specific about paper quality and all that kind of stuff. So for a while, he was selling ones that were on Amazon that met his very strict requirements. I remember him bringing all these different paper tests to the studio, and he had different fountain pens, and he was marking everything, and he was trying to see what left streaks and what doesn't leave streaks and what feels good. on the ink nib, and he's hardcore. Like, it's one of the things I love about Dave so much is like he just goes super research into stuff. So the stuff he had been releasing on Amazon, it was very high quality, but you can also just download the PDFs if you want to sort of print them
Yeah.
out yourself.
Yeah, I actually bought a couple of his. I wanted to have it in non-PDF form. I wanted to have the book bound and everything.
Mhm.
Really nice.
Yeah, he does a good job.
Who else? What else? Anybody else? How do you stay focused when it's getting harder and harder to stay focused?
I always use a notebook, always have a little notebook like this on my desk.
Uh-huh.
And every day I put the date and whatever is like, and of course, well, teaching this helps me because it tells me I need to call a parent or I need to check on a student, and I put a note, oh, he wasn't here. And whatever happened the day before, I have a note and I just put a day here, and whatever didn't happen, I put check marks. This is done. Meetings. I hate meetings. The school meetings are so boring that like, oh Lordy, no. I mean, even Derek has to remind me about my meetings. He checks my emails because I don't check them. I hate the emails, especially teaching emails is like pathetic. And so I tend to forget them a lot. So I have to make a note of double checking meetings. And but I just regular notebooks, what I need to do. In terms of photography is like, now that we do in the P52, it's like we just keep assignments. But I normally have a notebook in every single desk and I check things.
Well,
So
there you go.
it's simple. And I have all my notes, I have all notebooks, and I find them very easy to carry too. So I know I have the red book that has everything in it, like the most important things I know is there. And basically have kind of collection of little notebooks for the year. So it's kind of disorganized journal, I call them. It's
Well,
very
there's-
disorganized
Yeah,
because
I
it
have.
has
I've done the
scribbles.
same thing. Same thing. My planning for this year is on paper. I have a hard time doing it on digital. I use some digital products. I use Milanote, which is fun for ideas for blog posts and ideas for shots and things like that. I use that. When it comes down to what I'm doing, I do it on paper. I do it on paper with a pencil, and I can see the whole thing. Where in Google Calendar, you go, okay, then you got to go back a calendar, and then you got to go up a calendar and then back, and I can't see it all at one time, and I want to see it
Right.
all at one time. Of
Yeah.
course, with my two big monitors now, I could stretch them out, open
Yeah.
4 windows, and just sit here and bask in the glory of all those Radeons coming at me, but I don't do that either. So
Right. I prefer paper for reminders and a list to do, because you can scratch it and then you can go back and it's easy to transfer. It's easy to see one paper from the other paper.
Mhm.
On the computer, like for reminders, I can see that, but I find it difficult to follow on digitally. I find it easy to follow on paper.
plus my phone has all kinds of alerts in it. All kinds of alerts.
Yeah.
Remind me to take my meds at night. Upcoming the photo talk meeting. When if my phone goes off, it rings more for notifications than it does for people calling me.
Right.
There's so many things happening, and I just need to be, sometimes just kicked in the butt and reminded. So who else? What are you doing? Stay focused. No pun intended, though we are photographers.
Well, for me, sometimes what I will do if I'm really just all over the place is actually I'll do something that has nothing to do with what I'm supposed to do for a set amount of time. Because if the mind has got too much, so that can include some kind of sports, but also just cooking, whatever, something completely
What
different.
does that mean? What do you that? You mean you take a break from what you're doing to do something?
Exactly,
Okay.
because if the mind is all over the place, and then for a short while, I don't fight it. I feed that. I feed the let it be all over the place, but I time it. And that usually releases some kind of steam.
Okay.
And then the mind can get back to focusing, and then the lists. And because sometimes I can have all the lists I want and I'm still not managing to get it done. So
Yeah.
like I remember even when I was doing P52 at the beginning, like I was like, okay, today I'm doing the assignment, so I don't need, you know, I know what the assignment is, and I would just like turn around. And so I would literally say, okay, avoid it for like an hour, and then I could get back and actually get it done and focus.
I plan everything on paper planner and I put it into a Google map afterwards. And for a decade or more, I told myself, that's stupid. That's extra work. I don't have time to do it. It takes about 4 minutes. Literally, for 10 years, I was telling myself, I can't do this, when obviously it just doesn't take any time at all. That has helped me. So I plan on paper, because if you do have a nice book with all your stuff, now my wife is religious. She didn't go anywhere. She'll have her book before she'll have her phone with her. She'll have her book before she'll have her, car keys with her. Me, not so much. So you're meeting with somebody and you go, how's next Thursday? And you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I got nothing for you. So that's what I do. I just transfer it over. And what used to be something I just really dreaded, I'm not dreading it as much anymore. It's just become, like we talk about changing habits. I did it starting in the summer. I did it, and now it's just second nature.
Yep.
So
Yep. It's that routine stage that you just have to,
Yep.
you have to get past an introductory thing where you're consciously trying to do it day in and day out. And then when you hit that one day where it just automatically takes over, then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Yeah.
Well, I've been so unorganized in my surroundings, my business life, since I moved from a very big studio where I was maybe a little anal there, as some of my assistants would tell me. Moved from that big studio, basically everything into the garage, and then me into this 10 by 12 office here. There's too much stuff to come from a 2,800 square foot studio into a 10 by 12 office, if you get my drift. And unlike some places in the country, I can't leave cameras in the garage. It gets to be about 125 degrees out there.
Right.
That's not going to work. So I would have cameras stacked here and everything. I took a before picture before I remodeled the office over the holidays. I won't even show it to people. I thought, well, I'll show this, and I look at it, I go, that is so embarrassing. To know that. So I have been working since August on becoming more organized. So one little thing that I'm working on now is I won't go to bed. I won't leave the office for the end of the night until the office is clean. If it gets messy when I'm working, good, because it has to. If I'm not making a mess, I'm probably not getting anything done.
Yep.
I've been hours sometimes not making a mess. That's called taking a nap. And so, unless I've been napping, I'm making a mess in it. But it's like, it was so hard. And the second night I forgot. And then I thought, well, I'll do it tomorrow. And I said, no, damn it. I got up out of bed, put my slippers on, came in and cleaned my office up. It took me 5 minutes. Everything that would stop me in the past is because I would overestimate
Yeah.
how much work it was going to be.
You would spend more time thinking about it.
Oh yeah.
Actually doing it. It would take 6 minutes to do, but you spend 15 minutes like dreading doing it.
15 minutes? I wish 15 minutes. But so I feel like I'm conquering a little bit each time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many of you guys shoot out of a bag? Your cameras are in a bag, cameras and lenses and stuff.
I do.
Yeah. How often at the end of a shoot, is your bag neat and orderly?
Almost every time.
Mine is never. I mean, I get the bag back if, you know, if I can close it. If I sometimes I have to wear the camera around my neck because I can't close the bag. I'll get it back. And then I'm absolutely, again, anal on it. Everything's taken out, the bag's clean, the lenses and everything. But when I'm shooting, it's like I take this lens off, take the caps, I just throw them in the bag, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just that way. So when I'm shooting in a studio situation, my studio gets to be messy. There's stuff everywhere.
That is a good sign of productivity, is if you have.
Oh, my studio is a mess.
My camera bag is neat. My studio is a mess.
Yep.
My camera bag is
Studio
neat
is a
because
mess.
everything has a place. And so if I take it out, it goes back. But my studio is not nearly as organized as my camera bag.
I assisted a photographer in LA for 3.5 months. So really one of the longest assistantships I had. And he, if you've ever known an anal photographer, this guy was like the poster boy for these guys. He had little cabinets on the wall, mostly medium and large format cameras. And he had a number of lenses. The Hasselblad, he had like 9 lenses for the Hasselblad. If they made it for the Blad, he had the lens. He had, if I can remember correctly, he had a 65 and a 70, a 90, a 150, a 210, a 300, and a 450 for the 4x5, and about 3 lenses for his 8x10, but did shot mostly food. And he had these cabinets, and each lens had a little case built. The cabinet had a door on it, and the case had a glass door on it. And you'd take the lens and you'd put it back into the felt covered case and close the door and latch it. And we would be shooting something like, you know, I don't know, Taco Bell or Kentucky Fried Chicken. That studio would just be literally full of stuff. But I never left. When I was assistant, I never left. That studio was absolutely pristine when we left. And we would do that between shoots. If we had 2 shoots a day, I can remember a couple of times we had to shoot a soda and fries in the morning for somebody and then a cake in the afternoon. Between sets, everything was put back. The heads were put back. The power packs were put back, everything. And I'm like going, well, aren't we going to pull these out in about an hour? And he's like, yeah, that's on their dime. That's what they're paying for. So, you know, every job was set up, tear down is included. So he would do it. Oh, it was really crazy. I learned nothing about organizing a studio from that, except that I never wanted to do that. Took about 25 years for it to finally sink in. Said, you know what I mean? Finally go, you know, that guy really was onto something.
The people that I had assisted in the past, one of the things I noticed is they get to a certain point where they don't care about what younger people know as far as the new technology and stuff. I had interviewed with a guy one time and we went in and he had one of the original Buff lithium Vagabond batteries, the big blue ones.
Oh, and the blue ones.
Yeah, the original one where you could see the wires coming out of the bag. And they had, you know, released a couple of different versions. And I remember when I was interviewing him, I was sort of pointing out stuff that he had and everything. And his radar, he had like no clue that there was new battery packs out or that there was new this or there's new that. And I remember him saying, he was just like, my assistants know more about the newer stuff. He's like, I'd lose track. He's like, because I'm using the same stuff over and over again. I've had stuff that's worked for 15, 20 years. He's like, unless I need to go out and buy something brand new because something breaks. He's like, I don't keep my thumb on that pulse. He's like, because I've got everything here and it works already. So he's like, otherwise he'd lose more time just getting lost in that.
I'm kind of that guy. The only time I start looking at cameras is when I want to go buy one.
Yeah.
If I'm not in the market for a camera, I don't care. And
Don.
Fuji, God loves them. Fuji puts out about 11 cameras.
Come on. What's the camera? Nah, the camera you bought on eBay. Come on. You weren't in the market. You wanted.
Oh, no. Those are, I'm talking about new cameras. No. I'm going to go on eBay and look for contact
how silly
bodies.
Of me. I didn't know there was a difference. I thought buying
those are old.
Buying a camera. What was I thinking?
Sorry. No, those are old vintage film cameras.
How silly.
It's more of a well, let's put it this way. I didn't know about them when they were contemporary. I didn't know about I can honestly say I never remember the Nikon F5 coming out. I don't remember when that was. I remember the F3 came out. I remember when the F4 came out vividly because that's when I discovered I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But I don't
You were
remember.
cleaning somebody's studio twice a day. You missed it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
sometimes it was 3 times. It was crazy. It's really, really crazy. I get a little lost there, but because I'm teaching, I probably keep up with technology and cameras far more now that I'm teaching than when I was shooting.
Yeah.
Because I got one of the reasons I got a Nikon was because I was doing all these workshops, and Nikon people were asking me questions, and I couldn't answer the question. I said, screw it, I got to get a Nikon. I want to understand the menu system so that I can help them instead of going, well, I don't know.
Right.
I told my wife I needed to get a Fuji and a Sony. She didn't buy it. She saw right through that. I'll tell you, just saw right through that.
You don't want to do it. You don't want to have to take on anything extra. You just feel like you should.
Yeah, you should. It's like,
gotta be
this is
there.
part of the work. It's part of what you do. Just like
It's
you
in
need to
service to your
experiment.
students.
Yes,
That's how you sell it. It's in service
Oh,
to your
and
students.
right.
That
Because you have
I didn't
students
use
who
that
use them, so
terminology,
you need
Jane.
to
I'll
know
try
how
that
they
on
work.
Hey, Don, I'm always happy to help you spend your money.
her. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's amazing, and there's no shame in being a gearhead. Those camera manufacturers spend tremendous amounts of money trying to figure out how they can get us to, get excited about something. Remember the Godox strobes? The Godox,
Yeah.
well, we all know about the 8600.
Right?
Have you seen where the 8600 price has climbed to? They're $780 now.
Oh my God.
They're getting up in the pro photo range, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're not stupid. They know they get everybody hooked on them in a whole bit, but yeah, like $750. I'm like, wait a minute. That's, you're a couple of $100 off of a used pro photo mono head or a slightly used pro photo
Mhm.
head. And yeah. Their plug-in lights though are still the best deal on the planet. The SKs. They have an SK 400 watt second monoblock
Mm-hmm.
that plugs into the wall.
Mm-hmm.
The battery one is $450 or $500. The one that plugs in the wall is $119.
Wow.
Can you imagine back in the day getting a couple of 400 watt second strobes for $119?
Yeah.
Even back in the day money would have been great.
That's crazy.
That honestly, that's part of where I started looking into doing all this stuff probably 10 or 11 years or so at this point, and everything was so expensive with what I was doing for a job and my budget and everything. I just got discouraged to even trying. I just felt like there was no way. But now that you can get lights for the prices that you can,
Mhm.
it just makes it where it's affordable to even try to get started.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I got my first C-stand. I got my first C-stand delivered this week.
Congratulations.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then when I tried to get the 3 legs pulled apart, okay, so one of them came apart, just boom, it was there it was. But the other 2, man, I thought I was gonna have to call my son to come over here and open them up because they were just stuck.
They're just really, really stiff when you first get them, just
Yeah,
really
yeah.
stiff. And
So
you'll think that, nope, there's something wrong. They're not coming apart. They will.
Yeah.
They
So,
will.
so what do? I go to YouTube and I go Google, the C-stand just to figure out what I'm doing wrong. And so I just finally went back in there and then sat on the floor and I put it, between my knees and they came apart. So now I have one officially standing upright.
Yeah. Hey, having a C-stand is one of those kind of rites of passage thing.
That's what I
James,
was
you know what I'm
thinking.
talking, James, you know what I'm talking about. And I know Sid Caesar knows what I'm talking about. It's like everybody has stands. You get that first C stand and you set up and you, wow, this is,
I
It's a
think I'm-
monument.
You know,
It
the
is.
funny thing about that though, Don, is I got C stands. I bought them because, you know, they're heavy duty and all that. And I decided they're too much of a pain in the ass to drag around. So I used some old Broncolor triangle stands and they work awesome. I'll pull them out long before I pull the C stands out.
others, I have a C stand in my trunk of my car. I have one that I go out with and it's, that's where it lives, in the trunk of my car. But it's the short one. It's the 7-foot one,
Mhm.
not the big 9-foot ones. But when I'm in the studio, I just absolutely love the stability of them.
What they are good for is if you've got a nest, like a light and a cutter or a light and a flag really close together. Nothing beats that. The ones that have the fold out legs, you can't do that. But a lot of times you'll need to get 2 or 3 stands really close to each other.
Mhm.
That's hard with the triangle.
There's
The
There's a
tripod stands, that's hard to get them together. You end up
Yeah.
having to interweave the legs, stuff,
Mhm.
set of legs and stuff.
And it always needs to move right to the spot where that brace is.
Always. Always.
There's a C stand that Lindsay Adler is doing videos with Adorama now. So she was, of course, promoting the C stand. But it's a Savage 40-inch stainless steel C stand, and it's got a grip arm kit. So one of the legs on the bottom has
It's a Rocky
a
Mountain
head
thing.
that you can put a light stand on. So if you're doing clamshell lighting, right on the bottom of the C stand, it has a head spot for a light. So you can go one at the bottom and one at the top, and
Oh,
it's
nice.
yeah, but it's $230.
It's the special
What?
Adler version.
Yeah.
Costs
Yeah,
you
the-
extra money.
My favorite stand that I have isn't a C stand. It was the Cowboy Studio. It's a 13-foot light stand / boom. So you could use it as a regular light stand, or if you take it
Mm.
up, it'll pivot out and then it's a boom. But I went to get another one and they discontinued it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I found
That's
it.
not nice.
There's one on Amazon that looks just like it, but I bought it and I sent it back because the pivot part, the arc, is plastic and there's no teeth to it. So it doesn't grip. You can't get it tight enough to get the boom to not come down.
But it's made, that one's made for flags, right? Isn't it made for reflector? They're reflector holders?
It's got a regular head on the top.
Really?
Spigot. Mhm.
Yeah, I've got 3 of those that are made for reflectors. I can put a speed light on the end of it, but I
Yeah.
would never put a Profoto or Bronco.
Yeah, it looked just like it from the pictures, but it's not.
Well, see, now that's a product that you can't have too many stands. You can't have too many mini
No.
booms. Just, there's no possible way.
Yeah.
I would light probably my whole set with booms. When I was shooting out on the floor, the farther away I could get the light stands themselves from the set just meant that when makeup artists and models and everybody were going to their point, there's less of stuff being bumped or stepping over or that type of thing.
Yeah. I found another one like it though. It's a Photix. I put the link in the chat window. It's $149. It's just like the Cowboy Studio one that I have. And I love it because if you need a boom, you got a boom. If you need just a regular stand, you got a stand. And if for some reason you ever needed to get a light 12 foot up in the air, you can do that too.
I've got that one, the one
Is
that
it-
you, that Photix. It's really
Yeah.
nice.
Is
And
it
it's
good?
really easy to do the pivoting on it. I
Mhm.
I had a Manfrotto pivot thing because I used to have a plastic one and that sucked. So I wanted the metal one. But that was still hard to clamp it down. And then Sophie told me about this Photix and I love it. I can't wait to get my second one.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The
So-
first big boom that I had a grip in the middle, half round thing, it would fit there, and you'd tighten it. About 2 years in, you could tighten it and tighten it and tighten it, and it just kept slipping. And I didn't know what to do, so a metal working guy brought over this, he laid it out and he took like a file to it, like his file thing. And he just roughed up the two edges. I used it for 5 more years and it
Oh, wow.
never failed. He just really totally obliterated those things. They were practically chrome, you know, they were so
Mhm.
shiny.
Mhm.
Lots of.
But even the big booms, we had the big super boom, the Monfrado super boom, and I was doing a shoot and I had a model laying down and I had a softbox, 4x6 softbox over top of her. And something happened in that big pivot on the super boom snapped.
Oh no.
And I took a flying dive. I managed to save the light and the model and the softbox, but it happens sometimes. The casting actually cracked on it.
Yeah. Especially if they're old and you keep tightening them down so hard, you've got to just, you got to throw your both hands into it to get it tightened.
Yeah.
It can cause fatigue on the metal. I didn't know the photographer or the model, but when I was in LA at the beginning of my career, I remember hearing a story of a boom failing and the light falling on the model and really causing, hospitalization and
Oh
surgery.
no.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I was always really, really, really careful with that stuff. You can't be too careful. I remember a guy, this one I did know the model. I'd worked with her once before. This guy took glass. He was lighting glass from below with hot lights. And he had the model standing on the glass.
Ow.
What?
Jesus, no.
Don't ever do that.
No.
Don't ever, because glass becomes very weak when it gets hot.
Oh no.
And it shattered and she went right down through the glass onto the hot light.
No.
She had really messed up her legs and her arms, had cuts and abrasions. And I mean, it could have been a life-changing moment for her. Like luckily she was able to recoup and recover and stuff, but not without a lot of pain and plastic surgery and the whole bit. But her modeling career was over. And of course he had plenty of insurance. No, he didn't have any insurance.
I gotta
no.
say, I thought it was cold here, and I'm sitting here looking at Anna, and I need to go put a jacket on just looking at her.
The COVID mask.
Yeah.
It's very cold here, and my fire. I have a fire rather than heating, and this open fire and I have like a love-hate relationship. It's really pretty. It's ever so pretty when it's going, but it takes me quite a few times to go. And the nights where it's really, really cold, what generally means when it's really cold, there's no wind, so there's utterly no draw through the flue pipe.
Oh.
So I will light the fire and the smoke just comes into the room. So I end up opening all the doors and windows just to get rid of the smoke, try to light it again. And like this will happen on repeat until I threaten it with petrol, at which point it might start. The cursing and swearing phase is well and truly in. And we're then showing it gasoline rather than anything else. So yeah. It's now lit, but it's only been going for half an hour, so that it's not going to do anything tonight. So yeah,
I looked.
Oh,
and I saw
right. You're
two
a whole
eyeballs
different
sticking
time.
out of the park.
it's like my Zoom social distancing precautions.
My wife loves it when it's cold, so her side, she'll be sleeping out on top of the covers, right? I am on the other side. I got the sheet and the bedspread and my little thing I bought at Walmart because the bedspread just doesn't do it for me. I spread that thing. I'm all under there being warm. She's like, so you can imagine what it's like in our house. I walk around like Anna all the time. I'm in my office. I got a jacket on. My wife's going, it's so cold in here. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm freezing here.
Right.
Is it 65 degrees out?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's what it, that's
And
the
he's freezing.
weather
Yeah, but-
forecast, 65.
Yeah. But Jay, it's a brutal 65.
It is.
It was-
It feels like 59, I'm
That's
sure.
right. That's right. It feels like 59. We got a little wind chill
When,
going on.
when you don't have when you've lost your fat layer, you're vulnerable.
That's what it is.
Anything nearing a wind chill, it's over.
Yeah, I was getting gas halfway through. I was like, good enough, and stopped and got back in the car because it was like 20-something degree wind chill.
Ooh.
Qué horror.
Well, I'm a wimp now, but you know, that time I went to get my motorcycle and I came out and it was snowing on the motorcycle. And I had to get on it because it was 29 degrees in Leadville and snowing. And they said that if I got down to Buena Vista, my little phone app, if I could get to Buena Vista, it'd be 40 degrees. They lied. It was still 32 in Buena Vista.
Oh, they put up the sign that says exactly that. Leadville 29, Buena Vista 40. You know.
It's like, yeah, they didn't know how important that was to me. So like I'm like huddling down on the motorcycle with, because my hands are bare. So I mean, they got gloves, but they're in the wind. I don't have one of those fairings, keep you. It doesn't matter if you got gloves on when it's 29 degrees. I got to tell you, it's cold.
Cold hands are cold hands.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got to Buena Vista and I thought, I need to stop for gas. And then I thought, no, I don't. Just keep going. Just stay there. I figured if I
gets
got
to
off
the
the bike, I
point
wouldn't
where-
want to get back on it. I'd be
But
stuck.
when that happens, I think the times in the UK where I was soaked through on the bike, I'd get to the nearest petrol station and I'd take over, the hand dryers. I would take over hand dryers and like stretch between two of them, or one glove on each pipe of the hand dryer and each of them blowing. And I'd get this person come up to me and go, "Are they a little bit wet, love?" And you'd be like, how do I answer that without expletives or punching you? It's very obvious why I'm doing this. It's
Nope, I
not
just need to
rocket
reinflate
science.
them.
Yep.
They're just a little underinflated. Here's your time.
See,
Yeah.
But
All
as
right,
far
well,
as
let's move on to creative projects, short and long.
One quick before we hop
Yeah.
into that, while people are talking about C stands, and if there are people out there that are thinking about buying them, one of the ones that I bought, the last one that I bought was off of Amazon, and I can't remember the brand name, but I've noticed that they're putting springs in the risers. And so my recommendation is if you get one that does not have the springs in the risers. Get one where it's just you tighten it and you pull them up and down as you want. That's the only one that does it. And I constantly forget, and I have it in the back. I have a little C-stand holder and it's the furthest one in the back so that it's the last one I grab. And every time I've got a production where I need to use all of them, the minute I grab that thing, I just like, I haven't marked it. I need to mark it, but I forget. And I'll undo that first riser and that thing just springs up, and I've taken it in the face a couple of times. So when you're looking at C-stands, get the ones that don't have the spring risers, because if you forget about it and you poke an eye out, man,
Right.
they're dangerous.
Yeah, I don't have any of those. I never got those.
Yeah.
Back in the day, but there were times when you're lifting a 5,000 watt movie light up on those, and I wish I'd had a spring or some sort of crane or something.
Yeah.
What about short-term and long-term projects? Who's got a short-term project that they're going on, that they're getting ready to do?
Short time.
I do.
Hey, Dawn, it's Phyllis.
Oh, go Phyllis.
Oh, I'm going back through when we could travel, and had made a trip to Scandinavia and Russia. And so I'm going back through about 1,500 photos, which I don't know if that's a lot or not, but when you're trying to put it in a book, it's an awful lot of photos to go through, but I'm very excited to do it, and it's going to be very concentrated, and it really consumes your mind and everything. And it's a great way to break away with what's going on in our world.
Well, editing a book, there's no short way to do it.
I know, I know.
And Phyllis, I'll warn you also, there's almost no way to predict when you're going to be finished. And you'll have to at some point go, okay, I'm done, and just draw a lot. Because you
Right.
can go and go and go and go, and pretty soon you've edited it 15 times, and now you're missing probably some of the magic because you've edited it
Yeah.
all out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think eventually you had to say, okay, editing time is over this month, and that's it, and don't touch it.
yep.
Actually, I need to brag. I finished a book,
Oh,
but it has
good.
nothing to do with photography. It has to do with my dissertation, and I took part of my dissertation that is still there, but I did a book out of it for my own gratification. So with the help of Derek, of course, but he's my editor. And it just arrived today. We self-publish it. And it's just for my own gratification. I say, okay, this is a book and it's good information. It's mostly for ELL, and I can distribute if I want to. But it's done. So it's nice to see. It looks very pretty. It's not very big. It's about this thick. And it just arrived today. So
Congratulations.
Very
thank
nice.
you.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we
Nice.
have another project of it's a cartoon book because Derek does cartoons every day. This started a long time ago, and every day I'm very spoiled. Every day he does a cartoon for me in a paper sack. This is where I was going to school. And so because it's your comic relief. So if you have a bad day and at lunchtime is your comic relief. And I said, okay. And we learned this long time ago of a teacher, which has plenty of years. I remember one day she grabbed me and I said, you cannot eat by yourself at lunch. You need to come with us. And I said, why? Normally I eat by myself in my classroom. And they said, because if you have a bad day, you need to talk about it. You have to laugh about it. And then you can go back and teach again the rest of the day in a fresh, plain feel. And she was absolutely right. I mean, we got together like four or five teachers, and we always have something to laugh about it. So Derek learned about it and they start making cartoons in our paperback lunch. So now we have a collection of probably 7 years of paper sack cartoons, all related to school. Of course, he gets a lot of the information from me, stories of, oh, this kid did this today, or this happened. And they're fantastic. I mean, it really, and everybody keep telling me, and say, you have to make a book. So we had like 7 years of cartoon books, cartoon paper sacks. They're adorable. And I keep telling him, and I said, we had to make a book. We have a collection of books here. We even have a collection for COVID in the school. So that's the next project. That's our I would not say long time project, but I would say medium time, because we had to edit the cartoon. Not edit, we had to PDF and make a print to make it to as a JPEG, I guess. And so the process is taking us longer. So that's the idea.
That's great.
We're excited. That's the next
Sure.
project.
I think
That's a
everybody
treasure.
should have a long-term project that they're working on, something that takes more than 6 months, something that ends up being a book. How cool that is that you have that book. Is it hardcover, Lee?
Yeah, it's gonna be hardcover.
It's so fun to have a coffee table with your own books on the coffee table. It's
Yes.
very cool. But I think it keeps the mind sharp, when you're working on something, when you're creating something constantly, just keeps the the brain focused on looking for stuff, you know?
Yes.
So, yeah, very cool. Sid, how about you?
I've just been working on the studio. Let me see if I can tilt the camera here so you can see it. So this has been set up for a few weeks now. And there's a puppet over there, and I've got all kinds of lights set up. And so my long-term project is I want to start doing these things with this puppet. And I'm just trying to find his voice. He's all into music, so he's going to talk about what he's been listening to and records from the record collection. And last week I hired a guy off Fiverr because I wanted music that wouldn't get flagged for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've worked with musicians on their music videos, and I've done all the video portion of their music videos, and I've put them up on YouTube and stuff, and I keep getting flagged. And it's like, no, I'm part of that project. So I wanted something that was specifically mine. So I hired a guy off of Fiverr, and he gave me 2 4.5-minute musical compositions. And then I had to specifically write a 30-second intro song that'll be used for these puppet videos, specifically as an introduction video. And he's like, you've got all the rights. You've got like, they're yours. You can use them for any commercial purposes, anything. So I wanted just music that's mine so that I can use them for anything. So he just sent those in right after Christmas. And so I've got the studio set up, and I'm learning. I just got a Zoom H1 because I used to plug my microphone into my camera, and now I'm
Right.
sort of trying to learn how to deal with audio separate from the video and everything. So the last few weeks, it's just been, I'm in experimental phase and researching and figuring out how all this junk works together. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, it's still really quiet. I'm going to start banging out some of these little serialized puppet things where he talks about music and stuff. So that's sort of my short term, but it's also long term because it's something I want to try to get into.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, they
Hey,
go
Sid, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Where does this puppet, why do you do puppets?
It's the long story thing is I originally the first 2 puppets I had, they came about because I proposed to my wife. I made a little movie trailer with 2 puppets that looked like us, and this was about 10 years ago. And we showed it at a movie theater. There was no other people were there. It was just, people involved in the project. And then I'm a big Jim Henson fan. I'm a big Muppets fan. So then I had these puppets, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like I have a puppet that kind of looks like me. So I wanted to start using him and stuff. And then over time I kept getting different ones that I wanted to use for different things. Like I have this little green guy who's kind of this sarcastic know-it-all when it comes to photography. He's kind of a blowhard. And we were on vacation up in Portland a couple months ago, and there was this sloth puppet. And I don't know why I gravitated toward him, but I put him on my hand, and instantly I was just like, no, this is like a hip hop sloth who's just like real okay, and he listens to real like mellow lo-fi, hip hop music. And he wants to talk about music. That's what he wants to do. And like, we're gonna start doing these videos about like what he's been listening to and stuff that he picked up and everything like that. And I'm like sitting in the middle of this children's store, and Sarah's just like, my wife is just staring at me, and she was just like, all right. So I don't know what, and part of it is like, there's a reason why I'm behind the camera. I'm very self-conscious about the way that I look. So if I can do stuff that makes people, entertains people, but they're not looking at me and they're looking at something else, like I'm cool with that. And there's just parts of me that I think I can only express through these or through a different way other than just being like I get on camera, like even with these chats, and I think too fast, and half the time like things that I want to say don't come out properly because I'm talking too fast or my brain is. So with these things, it gives me a chance to slow down a little bit, and I can sort of say things a little more succinctly. I don't know. I just went into
That's the New England, the New Englander in you, Sid, because I had the same problem where sometimes I'm like, I was gonna ask. I was muted when he was talking about the photography puppet, and you said he was a blowhard and stuff. I said, do you call him Tony?
No.
Oh no.
He's got, but the problem is that I have them, and then I get so. It's funny when you talk about long-term and short-term projects and stuff. I think this is because of digital delivery now, where I used to do film and everything was a slower process, but now I have, I've got all these puppets and I have all these ideas that I want to do with them, but I can't implement it instantaneously. And so I'm like, I'll just move along. Like, I'm not going to get it done because it's just going to take too long. And one of the things I'm trying to do now with this new one is I'm purposely trying to take the time and be like, you know what? No, I've got a 3 light setup and we've got all kinds of audio equipment now. Like, I'm purposely slowing down so that I can actually do this rather than been like, I've got a puppet that I made him 6 months ago, and he's this dude from like the 80s, and he's like this little British singer, and he's from the 80s, and he was in a really successful 80s band. And I haven't done anything with him. Like, I made him and I styled him, and he's got cool, awesome 80s hair. And then he just sits over there because I'm like, the thought of getting in front of a camera and setting everything up and doing
No,
all
you
this
gotta-
stuff. And then I get a call for a headshot. So I got to break everything down before I've even done anything. And then I reset. So like I get like, so anyways.
You got to do it. This is the decade of content.
Mhm.
And this is the first full year of this decade. And Srini Rao wrote a great article on getting your first 6 weeks organized can set you up for the rest of the year. And I didn't know what he meant, but I see what I meant when he goes, because 6 weeks is kind of a lump that really makes sense for a year. If you 4 weeks is a month, 6 weeks you've kind of crossed that barrier, and it's all content. Listen to a lot of Gary Vee over the holidays when I was working in the office here, and just content. It's starting to break through to me where this content can come from, and that's one source. You got this wonderful place to create this very cool. And the other thing is embracing the concept of I'm a photographer and a YouTube puppeteer and a story writer, instead of I'm a photographer, but then I gave up photography and I became a puppeteer. No, embrace and just
You're all these
add
things
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Who
I
else?
think the thing that you talk about, to me, because I've done it before, is there's a real value in role play, because it allows you to get outside of yourself, and you actually have a whole construct when you move into it that you picked up for years and years and years that begins to go into effect, and you can be that character. And you can interact with it. I mean, they're already there for you because you've cultivated them, and then all your preconceptions about what you can do are gone.
How many of you guys are struggling with the visualization of a Tony puppet in your head? Come on. Be honest.
I figured everybody would get that right away.
Now I
I'm
can't unget rid of it. Thanks, Mark.
from Philadelphia, and we had South Philadelphia is known for its Tony people. Many of them.
I'm
right,
just
well-
waiting. I'm waiting for a Peter Hurley puppet to start showing up pretty soon.
Oh
'cause
gosh.
he's
He'll
got
have-
that kind of.
He'll have a big circle in his eyes. So
Yeah.
all right. So what's hot and what's not?
Well, I was going to tell you when we was on the projects, I have two that I'm working on. The one that I want to make a shorter term is kind of the same thing as what Phyllis was doing. Is I have tons of pictures of Maine, and I know that with all of the photos I have, if I go through and edit some of them from a long time ago and put them all together, I would have enough to put together a book. Maybe not huge, but 30, 50 pages, something like that. And I want to do that. And I have a airbrush show, a painting show in June.
Good.
So I'm working on getting ready for that. And I want to start filming that and make a YouTube channel for people that want to learn how to do airbrushing. So it's
Well,
not,
that's what Gary Vee talks about is document. If you can't create, document.
yeah, that's what
The
I-
fact
that's
that
why I
you're
told him-
putting together a show is really interesting. Do 5 minutes 3 times a week on everything from stretching the canvas to choosing the frame to, doing a walkthrough. Yeah, it's all interesting.
Yeah. This show has been in the progress since before everything got shut down. I was scheduled for last year, and once things got shut down, I got pushed back. So I told my wife, like, I have to do the paintings anyways. I have to do all this anyway. So I might as well set up a video camera. And then I got a little, I don't know where it's at. It's in my photography bag. I got a little microphone that is the type that, not this one, but goes on the camera.
Mhm.
It was like $30. So I'm going to put that where I can talk into it as I'm doing different things that I have to do. And I know when I was learning how to do it, there's not a lot of videos out there that are good instructional videos. There's a couple channels. So I know that there's a need for it, and I'm going to be doing it anyway. So I might as well film it and, you know, do something with that at the same time.
Good.
Yeah, that's great. That's really, really great. By the way, I know that the last couple of months makes me think that the world is spinning out of control. I spent 2 hours on TikTok yesterday,
Wow.
and now everything is so much more clearer to me.
Why? Why would you spend 2 hours on TikTok?
Well, I want to figure it out because I keep hearing Gary Vee talking about it. Now I look at Gary Vee and I wonder what the hell's wrong with him. Good grief. The inanity is just beyond belief. I just don't get it. But anyway, how about what's hot and what's not? I'll tell you what I think is hot and what I think is not. I think right now hot is focus stacking, and not is shallow depth of field in the studio.
Mm.
Doesn't mean anything. Do whatever you want to do, and I'm not going to stop shooting at f2.8 when I want that shallow depth of field. But right now, focus stacking is really, really hot in studio. Any kind of product, still life shots, because it's unique. We're not used to seeing that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sid?
I don't know. It's funny. I saw Stephanie post those pictures with her gels the other day, and it feels kind of like gels are starting to make a little bit of a comeback.
Yep.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, kind of agree with you. I kind of think that I'm seeing more and more gels. We got a photographer. Well, Lee uses a lot of gels.
I do. I like them. I
Those
think
are
it
cool
adds,
pictures.
I mean, for some photographs, I think it adds a sense of atmosphere when you don't have it. So it adds a little bit, an extra punch or an extra something. So I do like gels. I think it's not for everything, but I think for some images, I think it adds a little bit something. That adds to the story, I guess.
There's I did a podcast with a guy named Jake, and I can't remember his last name, but he's all over gels. That's
Yeah.
his whole thing is gels.
Well, he does some videos, educational videos on
Yeah.
that. I think he has 2 of them.
Yeah.
So I have them. I haven't quite, I mean, I really wanted to get into them. I just haven't made the decision to take the time to do it. But yeah, that's one of my aspirations for the year.
Yeah.
And who does these videos?
Jake Hicks is his name?
Jake Hicks. Yeah. Jake Hicks.
Thanks.
Is the Dean Collins stuff still available? Because I know he did a bunch of
You
stuff.
know,
Or did
I
they take
looked
all that
for it a
down?
couple of years ago and couldn't find it. But I also heard that some of his assistants were getting together with his ex-wife or his wife, and going to put out. He's got a legendary legacy of work out there.
But he used to have like a whole series of VHS tapes that people
Yes,
would order, and it was all about lighting, and it was very extensive. I remember a friend of mine had some, and we would check them out. Let me do a little Google searching here, but they're very good. If you ever come across any links or anything for him, he was like the lighting guru in the 80s.
That's where I learned to light. And whenever I give a lecture or something, I always say, I talk about subject centric lighting, and that's Dean Collins.
Yep.
And he's just a really amazing guy, super helpful. Died way too young. Somewhere I know there's a video that you can actually rent. You can rent the video. They'll actually send you the DVD, rent the video, then you send it back to them for like, I think it was $20. Because it was really, really valuable.
It looks like there is a DVD that exists. I'm looking at one right now. It's $180. It's 4 DVDs, but it doesn't specify like when it was recorded. So it must be a compilation of old
Probably
videos.
a compilation. He had, and I can't remember the name of the magazine, the photo magazine. Was it American Photo that he had a column in every month for like 5 years?
I think so.
He would put up a photograph, and then he'd put up the lighting diagram and a full discussion of what he did. He'd break that shot down to every little nuance. I thought it was absolutely genius, and I had him in a 3-ring notebook for forever. Dean is photographers everywhere owe him a debt of gratitude because he really did break the code on lighting. He's the one that separated. When you look at something separate, you realize you have a highlight. You have the true value.
Oh, look, Denise has got is that the DVD?
Yeah, it's the DVD.
Oh, it's the fine lights. Okay, great.
Where'd you get that?
I think I got it off of eBay because when I first started watching Don's videos on YouTube, he mentioned it. And I haven't watched them yet because I continue to watch your stuff. So,
yeah, they're
and I don't remember how much I paid for them, but I wouldn't have paid $100 for them. I think probably more like 40.
That's not bad.
No, they're out there. They're out there used. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Dean took the highlight, the true tone, he called it. I call it true value, and the shadow. And then you have 2 transitions from the highlight to the true value, and from the true value to the shadow. Those transitions are everything. They tell the transition from the highlight to the true value tells us the surface of the object we're looking at. If it's a sharp transition, it's a shiny subject. If it's not a sharp transition, it's a diffuse subject. So you can look at a pair of shoes that are satin, for instance, and our brains tell us, our brains know this stuff. Oh, that's a patent leather shoe. Oh, that's a satin shoe. Oh, that's a soft suede shoe. They're 3 red shoes, but the highlights are all different. We know this, right? And it's the shadow transition from the true value to the shadow that gives us the size of the light source. A small light source is going to have a very fast transition from the true value to the shadow side. Like, for instance, a nose shadow from a speed light. It's sharp, right? Just sharp, that transition. Where if you put up a softbox, the transition is much softer. It's really interesting, and it's those literally those 3 or those 5 areas that make up all lighting. All lighting is based on those 5 areas, and we make value judgments based on those 5 areas. Really, really, really fun. And I think he was colorblind too.
Oh, really?
I believe he was.
I saw a documentary. I don't remember where, but I saw a documentary of Dean Collins, where he's setting up the lights. He's showing how to set up the light, where he put it, where he put the camera. It was very interesting.
Self-taught.
1960s.
He didn't go to like photography school, self-taught. I'm not even sure if he assisted anybody. I met him a number of times in San Diego, just casually met him. I never hung out with him or anything, but really very nice guy. And the day he quit, he just quit. He literally walked off a set in the middle of a shoot and never came back.
Why did he quit?
Nobody really knows for sure. I know he died a few years later of cancer or something. Maybe he got a bad, maybe that was the day he got a diagnosis and just said, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. But he was in the middle of shooting this jewelry catalog, I believe. And the woman that was the art director was a total ass. And he just looked at his assistant and said, I don't want to do this anymore.
Wow.
Put the camera back on the tray and walked off.
Oh,
And
wow.
everybody thought, well, he'll be back tomorrow. No,
No.
he didn't.
Wow.
He literally dropped off the planet.
That takes courage.
You know who else
Yeah.
did that, by the way? Did you ever hear the name Bert Stern?
Yes, yes.
The first truly big commercial photographer ever, Bert Stern, was shooting for Levi's in near the Salton Sea, out in the desert, Salton Sea. And at the end of the third day or whatever it was, they said at the end of the third day, he looked at his assistant and he said, you take over, right? He got in his car and he left, and nobody saw him for 3 years.
Wow.
Literally, like nobody knew what the hell happened to him for 3 years. And when he came back, he was interested in art and stuff, but he wasn't photographing when he came back. It took him, I want to say 10, 15 years before he picked up a camera again. This was a guy that had a studio in New York that was 5 stories tall. And there was a studio on each of the 4 floors above the ground floor. And he would get in the elevator and he'd go to the 3rd floor and he'd go in and he'd shoot and approve the Polaroids. He'd get in the elevator, go down to the 2nd floor, go in and do a shoot. They'd tear it down and start setting up another one. He'd be in the elevator to the 4th floor, approving Polaroids, getting ready for a shoot. And he'd go back down to the 3rd floor.
That's
He
nuts.
is a one-man giant studio.
Yeah.
Having, there were the stories of having 6 and 7 and 8 shots a day coming out of that studio.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Dawn, one thing you were talking about with the focus stacking, I feel like part of why people are liking that, they don't necessarily know what we're doing, but they can tell that there's something different. And then it kind of goes along with the gels and some of the other stuff. And even just watching YouTube channels, like when you turn on a lot of YouTube channels now, it's no longer a guy sitting just in front of a camera like this. It all seems like, because there are so many people with cameras and there are so many people just putting out regular stuff, everybody's increasing their production value. So it's like having gels in a shot, we can tell that somebody did something a little bit more. The focus stacking, you can tell somebody did something a little bit more. That's part of where I've been trying to learn more of the compositing stuff, not to make a completely composited image, but to learn how to, like, even if it's bringing a smoke overlay or a light overlay or something like that. And so that way you can bring just that little bit of production value higher than what the person that's just taking a picture is doing.
I totally agree. And Mark, I would say young commercial photographers, not necessarily age-wise, but getting
Yeah.
into this, be able to composite an entire image. Be able to have a background you got off of Unsplash, shoot the bottle, shoot the wine glass separately, and assemble them and make it look right. Whether you do that for every shot you do or not, it's not even important to me. But I think right now it's a skill that we've got to get under our belts, because there's going to be some portion of that we're going to have to use. I heard a guy say on YouTube, and this is somebody, again, that I really have respect for, but oh my God, he said, it's impossible to shoot a wine bottle in one shot. You must use multiple shots. And I'm thinking, well, what the hell do you think they did for 30 years?
Yeah.
Dude? Craziness. Now, it's impossible to shoot it with a 35 millimeter camera without a tilt shift lens in one shot as perfect as he was doing, because all I would do with the 4x5 is we just shift the axis off a little bit, and then the highlight would be on the front of the bottle. Done. If you've got a 50 millimeter on your 35, yeah, he's right. You can't. You're going to have to bring this card in, let them overlap and do that stuff in Photoshop. But as a photographer doing it, no, it's a piece of cake. It's no brainer. So yeah, a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have stayed the same. I think the the key is to get into the arbitrage of what's different, what's the same, and how to get into it and make it work. Someone was talking the other day, and they were talking about the great big new companies that we have. And he said, everybody thinks, oh, the tech has brought us all this new stuff. And he said, what new stuff? Instagram?
Yeah.
That's just showing people your pictures.
Yeah.
That's been
Right.
around since brownies, right?
Right.
Facebook, that's just talking to people, sending a chain letters and
Mm.
that type of stuff, or party lines, right? Amazon, that's just buying stuff.
Yep.
And they're right. There's like almost nothing really new under
No,
the sun.
it just changed the how.
They've just changed the how.
Mhm.
Yep. And that's the thing. So in photography, I would say our job is to kind of find that place where you're kind of expanding into something new, but you're always kind of holding your own. Who was it here, by the way, who told me the book about by Finn? Who was that? Was that Carmen?
No, it was in Spain.
Alex.
Alex Baker.
Alex.
Alex. Yeah, I
Um,
just ordered it.
I would really recommend all you order. It's really, really good. Finn Beal's
Can you
book,
post
really,
the
really good.
link?
Huh?
Can you post the link?
Yeah, hold on.
I don't know, but to add to what Mark was saying, I think it's both great to be able to do that compositing, that little extra, and at the same time, I think it's great to be able to say, no, this was all shot in camera, zero Photoshop, like Sam Bridge did with her project and stuff. Because a lot of people think you get cool photos just because you apply 20 filters or whatever. And I think it's great to be able to do both and to show that you can do both,
Yeah.
because that adds value, but both ways, not one,
Yeah.
exactly that. It shows the technique, it shows you understand, and it shows you make it.
Mhm.
What I was thinking is that actually as you get into it, there's degrees of freedom because you can do this, you can do that, you can make choices as to what you're going to do and what outcome it will be.
It's all tools in the toolbox.
Yep.
I'm going to put it in the chat. There's the link to it in the chat. I really like Finn's work, and that was sort of what made me think about it is when Mark was talking about different looks. And I just watched a video, Sam Elkins. It's just a back and forth interview, done for YouTube, right?
Mhm.
And it's color graded.
Yep.
Yeah. Could have just done it on his iPhone, but he took the time to color grade it. Finn Beal's work is, and when you see his work, you'll know who I'm talking about instantly. Beal's work is so recognizable, and yet he doesn't use lighting at all. I'm sure he knows how to, but everything I find on his webpage is pure, natural light. I guess the term filmic, Sid, is that the word that we use for?
I've been hearing that word more and more recently. Yes.
It
Yes.
looks like he shot it
kinda-
on a camera for a photograph. There's no digital manipulation at all at first. Then you start looking closer, and he's color grading, and he's controlling his highlights because his skies are always he's putting some clarity into the skies, into the clouds and things like that. But really, really great. The thing that got me was the shoot he did on a bright sunny day, because all you guys know that I live in Arizona, and all you guys know that I'm pretty much over bright sunny days. I don't care if I ever see another blue sky again. And I'm looking at his work and I'm going, oh shit, he did a great job on a bright cloudless sunny day. I think he's in Scotland or something, and I'm like, yeah, I just got to up my game. I guess I got to stop with the excuses that the sky looked shitty, so I wasn't going to shoot, and bring my A game, because he did it. If he can do it, I can do it. I always believe that.
Yep.
Well, all right, Sid, you want to add anything? What do you want to talk about next week? We'll get everybody's wet their whistle, as they used to say here.
I want to see what everybody's been working on. It's been a few weeks since I've been on here.
Excellent idea. Bring some stuff to look at.
Bring some shareables so we can see.
Excellent. All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming. Sid, if I need your video, your recording, I will let you know. If you don't hear from me
Okay.
by the end of the day, you can toss it. Or
Sounds
you
good.
can save it for posterity.
I will save it.
There you go.
Yes.
All right, everybody, have a great one. We'll see you next time.
Thank
Be
you.
safe. See you guys
All right.
later.
Bye.
Bye.